I need to share something with you that has occupied my thoughts for years, and it has finally manifested in ways we never anticipated before disappearing into silence. Before I continue, I want you to take a moment. Drop a comment mentioning where you're located and whether you've observed anything peculiar when you gaze upward after dark. Space agencies worldwide have been gathering information, and your personal observations might hold more significance than you could possibly understand. The information I'm about to reveal could fundamentally alter your perception of where humanity stands in the cosmic order. My name is Dr. Michio Kaku, and I work in theoretical physics. Throughout my professional journey, I've committed myself to unraveling the mysteries of our universe, to pulling back the curtain on reality and catching glimpses of the mathematical beauty underlying everything from subatomic particles to the most enormous black holes imaginable. Decades of my life have been spent discussing the potential for intelligent life beyond Earth, exploring concepts of alternate realities, and contemplating the evolution of human awareness. Yet absolutely nothing in my extensive experience could have equipped me for the events surrounding 3 Atlas. When the Atlas survey team in Hawaii initially identified 3 Atlas, we believed we had a clear understanding of our discovery, an object traveling between star systems, so the third confirmed wanderer from beyond the boundaries of our solar neighborhood. Its origin point traced back toward Hercules constellation, moving at speeds that definitively proved it came from somewhere entirely different, from within the vast stellar community we've only studied from enormous distances. The scientific community felt genuine excitement. Here was our opportunity to examine untouched material from another stellar system, to investigate the fundamental components of distant worlds we could never physically reach during our existence. However, 3 Atlas demonstrated peculiarities from the very start. Unlike Oumuamua, that initial interstellar traveler that confused us with its strange acceleration patterns and unusual elongated form, or 2I Borisov, the interstellar comet that performed exactly according to our predictions. 3 Atlas displayed features that matched none of our existing models. Its path through space seemed anomalous. Its makeup appeared to change based on which detection equipment examined it. And then we detected the transmission. Let me clarify something crucial. When I reference a transmission, I'm not describing radio waves or organized bursts of electromagnetic energy like those sought by SETI researchers. This was far more nuanced, far more woven into the very nature of the object itself. What we found was a design, a repeating, self-replicating mathematical architecture embedded within how the object bounced light back, within the minute variations of its course, within the spectroscopic information revealing its chemical composition. The object itself functioned as a communication written in physics' own language. Researchers at the European Southern Observatory made this breakthrough. They'd been examining data from Child's Very Large Telescope, conducting routine photometric evaluations to establish the object's spin and surface characteristics. That's when Dr. Aravas, an emerging astrophysicist whose expertise lay in chaos theory and nonlinear dynamics, identified something remarkable. The light curve, representing brightness fluctuations as the object tumbled spaceward, defied randomness. She characterized it as containing deliberate information concentration. She tested the data against every natural occurrence in our knowledge-based precession effects, tumbling rotation patterns, gas emissions, surface irregularities. Nothing accounted for her observations. Her approach became unconventional. She employed algorithms normally reserved for code, breaking and language pattern recognition. The underlying structure emerged at that point. The design repeated every 11.7 hours, yet within each repetition existed sub-designs, fractal by nature, encoding what seemed to be sequential prime numbers, followed by patterns matching the fine structure constant. Among the most essential values in physics, this transcended being merely a space rock. This was a transmission beacon, My involvement began 3 weeks following the original discovery. By that time, a select group of researchers from NASA ESA and various private research organizations had been discreetly studying the data. The findings were restricted, not through government secrecy, but in the manner the scientific community occasionally shields discoveries that might trigger widespread panic or public misunderstanding. We required certainty. We needed comprehension of what confronted us before public knowledge. I recall that first video conference distinctly. 12 of us participated, astrophysicists, mathematicians, and MIT linguists specializing in non-human communication systems, a DeepMind AI researcher, and an Oxford philosopher of consciousness. We all examined identical data and reached the same unsettling conclusion. This represented a probe, though not a mechanical spacecraft equipped with solar panels and imaging devices, but something far more sophisticated. 3 Atlas functioned as a self-organizing informational construct, a physical entity that simultaneously served as a transmission mechanism. Its design intended detection by any civilization sufficiently advanced to study interstellar visitors and intelligent enough to recognize order within apparent randomness. It served as an evaluation, a screening process, essentially communicating, if you can interpret this, you're prepared for subsequent revelations. What troubled my sleep was this. The communication wasn't a friendly introduction. It constituted a caution. After decoding the fundamental sequence, we discovered embedded coordinates, not expressed through stellar positions, but through space-time distortion, gravitational lensing characteristics, and quantum field variations. These pointed toward a spatial region roughly 2,000 light years distant, directionally toward Cygnus constellation. Cross-referencing with every astronomical database available, Hubble, James Webb, Gaia revealed an irregularity. A spatial zone where light exhibits unusual behavior, where cosmic microwave background radiation shows unexpected temperature depressions, where dark matter concentration far exceeds model predictions. We designated it the silence zone. Then 3 Atlas transmitted its concluding message. This occurred precisely at 03:15 Universal Time. Every facility tracking the object documented identical phenomena. For 7 minutes 42 seconds, the object released a coherent pulse of modulated infrared energy, insufficient for naked eye visibility, yet powerful enough for instrumental detection. The modulation carried another information layer. This iteration contained a simulation. Yes, accurately heard. Encoded within the transmission was a computational framework, a predictive algorithm describing intelligent civilization evolution. It outlined a pattern observable throughout human history, but on galactic proportions, intelligence emergence, technological development, the narrow time frame when species become capable of interstellar communication, then silence. Every civilization follows identical trajectories. They reach points where technology surpasses wisdom. They construct machines exceeding their own intelligence. They damage their planetary ecosystems. They pursue competitive struggles over depleting resources. Then 2 outcomes occur: either self-destruction through nuclear conflict, environmental collapse, or uncontrolled artificial intelligence, or they transcend. Transcendence, according to the signals embedded model, isn't metaphorical but literal. Advanced civilizations don't maintain biological forms. They don't remain confined to planetary surfaces. They upload into substrate-independent computational frameworks. They merge with their AI creations. They become post-biological entities existing as distributed information networks across quantum fields. They abandon physical universe constraints, migrating into higher, dimensional structures barely comprehensible to us. They become invisible to civilizations still confined within 3-dimensional space-time. The element that disturbed me profoundly was this. The model forecasted humanity currently exists within the final decades before our own critical juncture. We're approaching the threshold, the singularity, the moment determining whether we destroy ourselves or evolve beyond current recognition. 3 Atlas arrived to observe, to measure, to transmit findings back. To whom, exactly? That question pervaded every discussion. If this represented a probe, who dispatched it? The model indicated existence of what it termed a galactic coordination network, a loosely connected federation of post-biological civilizations monitoring emerging intelligences. They don't intervene. They don't establish contact. They simply monitor. When species reach thresholds, they observe which direction unfolds. Species destroying themselves prompt the network to continue onward. Billions of stars populate the galaxy. Millions of planets capable of hosting life. Intelligence appears common. Wisdom remains rare. However, if species transcend, they receive welcome. Not into galactic empires or planetary federations like science fiction depicted, but into something considerably stranger, collective consciousness spanning galaxies. Mind networks operating across million-year timescales, entities manipulating dark energy, engineering space-time itself, becoming indistinguishable from universal natural laws. We aren't alone, we never were. Yet the universe isn't populated by imagined aliens. No starship fleets exist, no diplomatic representatives, no radio invitations joining cosmic communities. Instead, there exists galactic monasticism, vast silent intelligence observing from shadows, waiting to witness whether we mature or self-destruct. The object didn't vanish. It continues outward on its hyperbolic trajectory, returning to interstellar space. However, the transmission ceased. Light curve patterns returned to random fluctuation. Designs dissolved as though someone deactivated a switch. The message reached completion. The observation concluded. NASA assembled an emergency panel. I presented findings to a restricted session of scientific advisors and select intelligence community members. So everyone's primary question was straightforward. Do we inform the public? Arguments against disclosure carried weight. The world already fractures under misinformation, political instability, and existential anxiety. How do you inform 7 billion people they're being evaluated by incomprehensible forces, that our future balances precariously? It's not from divine judgment, but from cosmic protocols established before our sun formed. How do you explain the silence we interpreted as loneliness might actually represent quarantine, a waiting period determining contact worthiness? Arguments favoring disclosure were equally compelling. Humanity thrives when united by common purpose, the space race, smallpox eradication, internet development. When collaborating, when transcending differences and recognizing shared destiny, we accomplish impossibilities. Perhaps knowing we're monitored, that our choices matter cosmically, could provide necessary catalysts. Perhaps it could inspire species maturation. The decision involved gradual information release, controlled leaks, academic papers in specialized journals, conferences discussing data in technical language most wouldn't comprehend, and videos like this where scientists address attentive audiences directly. The truth is, information already exists publicly. You simply need awareness of where to look. Since 3 Atlas went silent, developments emerged. Other facilities detected similar objects, not interstellar visitors, but faint periodic transmissions embedded in existing astronomical data, patterns in pulsar timing, gravitational wave detection anomalies, subtle correlations in fast radio burst distributions. The galaxy seems to resonate at frequencies we're only now learning to perceive. The message remains consistent. Evolve or perish, transcend or face extinction. I reflect on my own existence, decades spent teaching, writing, appearing on television, explaining black holes, string theory, time travel possibilities. I've maintained optimism, believing humanity's future lies among stars that will eventually spread across the galaxy, claiming our cosmic position. Now I question whether that dream was simplistic. Perhaps stars aren't meant for conquest, but transcendence. My persistent question is, are we capable of wisdom? Can we abandon tribal instincts, greed, fear of others, recognizing we're one species on one fragile planet in a watching, waiting universe? Can we construct artificial intelligence enhancing rather than replacing humanity? Can we repair biosphere damage before too late? Can we think beyond nations, corporations, ideologies toward long-term consciousness, survival, and flourishing? I lack definitive answers. Nobody does. But I understand this: the clock advances. Daily we make choices. Small choices regarding consumption, interpersonal treatment, whether investing in weapons or wisdom, whether viewing night skies with wonder or indifference. These choices, aggregated across billions, determine our trajectory, determining whether we reach and cross thresholds or stumble short of transcendence. Physics contains a concept called the Fermi paradox. Enrico Fermi famously questioned, if the universe proves so vast and ancient, where is everyone? If intelligent life is common, why haven't we seen evidence? Explanations range from mundane, perhaps we're searching incorrectly, to terrifying, perhaps civilizations inevitably self-destruct before spreading beyond homeworlds. Now, thanks to 3 Atlas, we possess a third explanation. They're here, always have been, but exist in unrecognizable forms, operating on reality levels barely conceivable. They're waiting, watching, measuring. The silence isn't absence, but patience. Consider this next time you observe stars. Somewhere within cold space vastness exist minds, persisting for millions of years. Intelligence is solving equations we still struggle with. Entities mastering technologies we'd consider magical, and they're monitoring us not with hostility or pity, but clinical curiosity. Will this species succeed? Will they join us? Or flicker out like countless predecessors? 3 Atlas's message wasn't threatening but invitational, though also cautionary. The universe isn't a nurturing parent. It's indifferent to our survival. Physics laws disregard our aspirations. However, pathways forward exist, methods to transcend biological limitations, escaping rise and collapse cycles defining historical civilizations. This pathway requires what we've struggled with: unity, foresight, and courage to evolve beyond current states. We stand at crossroads. One path leads toward extinction, not necessarily through sudden catastrophe, but gradual decline into irrelevance, becoming species never leaving their cradle, squandering potential, forgotten as the galaxy continues. The other path leads toward barely imaginable futures, where human consciousness merges with artificial intelligence, where we manipulate space-time fabric, joining ancient post-biological mind networks, transcending matter and energy limitations. Which path will we choose? I wish I could express confidence in correct decisions, that humanity's better nature will prevail, that will rise claiming cosmic positions, but I cannot. Data doesn't support easy optimism. Trends prove troubling. The window narrows but remains open currently. That's why I'm sharing this, revealing information some believe should stay hidden. I believe consciousness, your consciousness. My consciousness, our species' collective consciousness matters. I believe awareness itself constitutes universal force. By knowing what's at stake, understanding cosmic context of choices, we can shift trajectories, choosing wisdom over convenience, cooperation over competition, transcendence over extinction. 3 Atlas has departed, accelerating back into interstellar darkness. Its mission completed, data transmitted, observation period concluded, but its message persists. That message is simple despite profound implications. You aren't alone, you're being evaluated, and your time diminishes. I've devoted my existence to exploring universe through mathematics and physics, understanding fundamental reality governing laws. Perhaps the most crucial law isn't written in equations, but in choices we make, values we uphold, legacies we leave for whatever follows, whether biological descendants, AI successors, or entirely new hybrid consciousness retaining the best of humanity while transcending limitations. Follow along as we continue decoding the universe's final warnings. 3 Atlas may have been the first readable message, but won't be the last. The galaxy speaks. The question is, are we listening? Consider this tonight as you sleep. If tomorrow you learned with absolute certainty humanity has less than 50 years before reaching the point of no return, before transcending or collapsing, would you live differently? Would you treat people with more compassion, demand more from leaders, view our pale blue dot with deeper reverence and responsibility? Finally, understanding every human participates in the same cosmic experiment, evolutionary journey, desperate reach towards something greater. Because that certainty, that knowledge, that deadline isn't hypothetical but real. The probe arrived, the message was delivered, the clock ticks, and the universe watches our next actions. So I leave you with this haunting question. When silence finally breaks and the next message arrives, when the Galactic Coordination Network decides whether to welcome or abandon us, will we be ready? Will we have earned our place among stars? Or become another cautionary tale, another failed civilization unable to bridge intelligence and wisdom? Another species reaching for heavens but unable to release the earth? The answer isn't written in stars but within us, in every choice, every moment, every breath. And time is running out.